I'm Dipesh Patel, editor at Trade Finance Global. The uses of AI in trade really does remain one of the most topical discussions we're having right now, and actually that we had at the recent ITFA conference in Cyprus. Today we're discussing the use of AI from an ESG lens. For Cybos 2024, I'm delighted to be joined by Anastasia McAlpine at Finastra. We're here to discuss how AI can ensure ESG compliance and improve supply chain finance. Anastasia, welcome to Trade Finance Talks.
Thank you, Dipesh. Well, glad to be here.
Good to have you on Trade Finance Talks TV. Finally. So, quick introduction. Who are you? Where are you from? And what do you do?
Yeah. So, Anastasia McAlpine. I'm head of product management for trade and supply chain finance at Finastra. Just a few words about Finastra. Finastra is one of the leading software solution providers out there in the market. We have over 8,000 customers worldwide, and we serve out of the top 50 world banks, we serve 45. So pretty impressive. A bit of about myself. My background is banking, so come from one of the top banks. I've been with Finastra now 6 years, and yeah, it's very good.
Thank you very much. I remember when we first met at the ITFA annual conference, I think in Budapest, about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Let's talk about sustainable trade and ESG linked trade. Can you give us a bit of an overview and as to what the current obstacles are to enabling inclusive and sustainable trade, which currently I think the industry is facing at the moment?
Yeah. So I think we can break it down, maybe your question, into one is sustainability and another one is inclusion. So sustainability, I think one of the key factors to consider is how we actually measure sustainability, what it is, how we track and what we do with it. And I think this is one of the big trends in the market today is how do we move forward and what do we do with it. The second part is inclusion, of course, and I think the big topic, especially in trade finance, is the SMEs and how can we extend the financing to those who need it most, but we know obviously having trouble accessing it.
Brilliant. So not being able to measure sustainable trade finance and also the fact that the trade ecosystem is somewhat not as inclusive as we'd like it to be, especially for those smaller businesses and especially for those in developing markets.
Absolutely. And I think we need to think about the cost of serve from the bank perspective to the SME. We know, for example, trade or lending in general is very paper-based, it's very laborious, cost ineffective. So, and this is one of the key points and the barriers that the industry needs to face into and how we extend and then be more inclusive.
So to lower the cost and also to make trade more inclusive and more efficient, can AI help solve that problem?
Absolutely, and I say absolutely. I think one of the big challenges, as I mentioned, is really it's the manual efforts, the laborious, the paper-based intensive processes that financial institutions have in place. With the AI, a lot of it can be automated. That coupled with obviously all the digital initiatives that be happening in the market will help us to move forward. It will lower the cost to serve. It will make, obviously with the likes of ESG scoring, it will hopefully de-risk the business for the banks, and therefore they will be more open to provide financing to those corporates at the lowest spectrum. Sure.
Well, can you talk a bit more about how AI can actually be integrated to help promote ESG compliance?
So one of the first steps is what I mentioned is the scoring and how we measure the business. There are a number of different businesses like the likes of Coriolis ESG that automate and provide a scale that can be used in terms of rating the corporates, and this can be automated from the back office processing perspective, so it's done in very efficient both time and cost efficient way from time and cost perspective.
Sure, and I guess taking a bit of a step, not just in terms of ESG, but can you talk about some of the work that Finastra are doing, particularly in your business area, using artificial intelligence? Because I know there have been quite a few exciting partnerships that have come about recently.
So obviously Coriolis ESG we just mentioned, we are very happy to partner with them and bring this solution to our customers. The other area I would touch on is the benefits that AI can bring to within the financial institutions' operations themselves. So we know the processes can be sometimes somewhat complex. Some maybe applications, especially for the new joiners, is very new. So how to streamline the accessibility and that improve the knowledge of the steps, i.e. allowing the financial institutions focus on actually the cases where the intervention needed, but all the routine tasks can be more optimized, shall I say, in a way that is actually helpful for the banks and helpful for the corporates. So one of the solutions that we're working on is how we can bring the knowledge to our bank users. So instead of going through the thousands upon thousands pages of user materials, or if they have questions and waiting to ask their colleagues, they can actually ask an AI for help. So this will speed up the resolution of the query, but also speed up the process of processing transaction.
So it's really looking at that end-to-end trade and supply chain finance cycle and figuring out what are the low-hanging fruits when it comes to AI. How can you at Finastra help your banks help their customers easily access information, automate some of those paper-based tasks, etc., to provide, to lower the costs, to provide more efficiency, to make things faster.
Absolutely. Here we're really talking about the tip of the iceberg, because I think the potential of AI is huge. But we need to be comfortable with the use of AI. Today, I think in the market there is a fair bit of maybe healthy skepticism where they are and how useful it can be, especially around the generation of the prompts and the answers that it provides. Can it be really trusted? So I think one of the key next steps is take it a small step at a time. Start in the area where, as an institution, you're comfortable with, potentially not using customer data if that's something you're not comfortable with, something your regulator is not comfortable with, and progressing, steadily across. So starting with, as you mentioned, the low-hanging fruits, and then move forward to realizing the benefits of the AI.
Well, let's delve deeper into the iceberg itself, because I know regulatory compliance is probably another real purpose for AI. Are there any other economic benefits that you potentially see for AI within Finastra's suite of solutions and for your bank customers?
Yeah, absolutely. And over the last 2-3 years, I really see a shift. I think previously, when we talked to some of our customers, really the notion, kind of the core discussion was, I need to comply with my regulator. How can you help us? I need to report how many ESG compliant transactions I have, for example, as a very basic example. But over the last few years, there's definitely a shift into more of a social aspect of it, and how we can actually improve the industry. We can improve and help corporates grow, reward those who are following the ESG standards, that improve their processes in order to improve the ESG aspects of it. So this sort of social part, I think, is very prominent. And one of the common tactics is how, just as an example, how the bank can reward those businesses that do invest and look after ESG aspects of their business, for example, through lowering the margin. So if the business complies with certain aspects, they might get a more preferential rate versus someone who's not so much.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting because if you can then, if you have the technology and the ability to really see through an end-to-end supply chain, you can, give that preferential discount, knowing for certain that there is the tech, that the supply chain is fully transparent and visible. Let's talk about generative AI, because I think that's been quite a lot of the excitement in the AI sphere within trade and supply chains. Are you seeing any challenges from Finastra's perspective or from your customers' perspective with the adoption of Gen AI within this industry?
So one I already mentioned is the skepticism, is can we trust what the AI generates? We also, on this aspect, we need to understand there is a different solution within the AI space. So there's obviously things like ChatGPT, but there's also Copilot, something which is a bit more, shall we say, creative, and something which is more very specific, based on information you feed that particular solution. So the one I mentioned earlier, we're looking at from educational perspective, is the Copilot, so which is based on the data we provide. It's not getting the data from anywhere else. It's a very specific context that they can look through, learn, and generate the answers, saving time, costs, and effort for the bank users, and kind of let them focus on what actually the interested part, kind of the important parts of their job, rather than more of a mundane routine day-to-days. Regulatory, of course, the issue with the regulatory compliance is always there on the back of everyone's mind. Can we actually, from compliance perspective, rely on on output provided by AI? Can we actually use it? Is there any restrictions from regulatory perspective? But again, I think the industry overall is more and more accepting of AI, and this is, I'm sure, it's similar to the digital documentation, all the recent changes. We will see more and more progress made in the AI space. Interesting indeed.
Tell me about Finastra's recent partnership with Credible. How imperative is the need for AI within supply chain finance with regards to this partnership?
Supply chain finance, I think we need to say that, of course, one of the big differentiating points about supply chain finance versus, for example, documentary trade is the vast amount of information of data that goes through. The vast amount of the players that they take part in it, because you've got the buyers, suppliers, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands invoice floating on a daily basis. So AI certainly, as a first step, one is to help onboard the counterparties. It can help to analyze the data. It can help then to make predictions in terms of what is the best outcome in terms of, so you've got this the set of invoices, when is the right time to, for example, finance it from a cash flow perspective. So it can help in many ways to optimize and automate the supply chain finance flows.
Very interesting. And I guess in relation to that, I'd like to ask a question about Loan IQ, one of Finastra's solution. How is Loan IQ expanding to meet the specific needs of smaller enterprises, something we mentioned as an important topic earlier in this conversation, and also bilateral loan servicing?
So just to mention that obviously Loan IQ is one of the leading applications in the market. Just to give you an example, 75% of the syndicated lending is processed on Loan IQ. So we're very proud of that. We continue investing in features and functions, and bilateral lending and SME lending is one of the key focuses for us. So we'll continue doing and bringing the market, offering our customers more of a one-stop shop for all their lending needs, for and kind of covering as many segments of the market as we can.
Thank you very much, Anastasia, for joining on Trade Finance Talks. That was Anastasia McAlpine at Finastra joining us, Sibos 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepesh. Glad to be here.